You're listening to The Crypt, and my very special guest on the show today is Muse Watson, who starred as Charles Westmoreland in Prison Break, Mike Franks in NCIS, and Ben Willis the Slasher in I Know What You Did Last Summer, to name but a few. So you're very welcome to the show today.
Thank you.
Well, firstly, could you tell me about how your road to a career in acting first began?
Yeah, I was at Berea College in Berea, Kentucky, and had been in school for several years and not a very successful student. And one of my professors who was teaching a speech course said they wanted to see new faces at the theater. And they were doing Taming of the Shrew. And so I went down. First I drank a bottle of whiskey, and then for courage, and I went down and I auditioned for Petruchio and got the role.
Of course, you went on then, when you started to pursue movie roles, you were renting equipment and that to film production companies. What was that process like to break into the movies?
You know, I drove trucks in the movie business. I was, logistics, that kind of thing for a long time, watching everybody do it. And when I got my shot in Something to Talk About with Julia Roberts, I think it was the work ethic itself of me riding those horses and whatnot that got me the chance, because the producers of that movie, when I got done with it, they invited me to come to Los Angeles and told me they would help me out in my career and get me an agent, and so that's kind of the way it happened.
I suppose you would have been learning your craft as well, watching all the different actors and actresses on the various film sets.
Yes, I watched them very closely and listened to them, and I learned from them a lot. Of course, I had a lot of theater experience, but theater acting and movie and television acting is a whole lot different. It's kind of like, snow skiing and water skiing. You can call them both skiing if you want to, but they're different.
And is there any one actor that you would have watched that you thought, that's the kind of actor I want to be?
Clark Gable.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And then a guy could dream that he would look even close to something like that, but that didn't happen.
Also, I read a really good story on your website, and it was about a time when you were going to get bet up in school and your brother gave you some advice and it ended up becoming a tool in your career. Could you tell us that story?
Yeah, when I was a little boy, I was a skinny, shy little boy, but of course, I still got into trouble. And I had a fella tell me one afternoon, he said, tomorrow when you come to school, I'm gonna beat you half to death.
Oh my God.
It scared me, and I went home and I went to my older brother, and he said, what's the matter with you? And I said, well, old so-and-so at school said when I get there tomorrow, he's gonna beat me unmercifully. And my brother looked at me and he said, come here, we need to practice something. I want you to look as scary and as crazy as you can, because nobody wants to fight a crazy man.
And so true. And
I got that look on my face like, I don't care what you do to me, I'm gonna do something worse. And I'm totally crazy, so I would just, break your arm and beat you with the bloody stub.
Yeah.
And it worked. It worked.
And you could see that when you played Ben Willis in I Know What You Did Last Summer. Very scary looking man. How did that role come about?
For some reason, they were in trouble. They were never finding the bad guy that they were looking for.
Yeah. And
one of the reasons was their criteria. One of the criteria that they wanted for that role was that the guy be willing to come to the set when he wasn't working and sit there in case some of the new kids that they had as actors on the show needed a little scaring, a little motivation. And it was that work ethic again. I was always taught to be there and do what you got to do to get the job done. And so one of the producers on the show had worked with me on Something to Talk About with Julia Roberts, and he said, if you want a bad guy that's easy to work with, it's Muse Watson.
Yeah.
And so they called me, and I went and auditioned, and Lord have mercy, it wasn't 48 hours before I was on a plane going over there. Now, the end of that story has to be told. Number one, those kids didn't need any motivation. They were fine actors and knew how to motivate themselves. But it got me the role, so, you know.
And it was a great lineup alongside you, because you had Sarah Michelle Gellar, who I'm biggest Buffy fan in the world. What was she like to work with?
She was wonderful. And, you know, everybody else had, you know, Jennifer Love Hewitt had her mom there, and other people had people that they date or their relatives there. And Michelle and I were like the only two that were on location that didn't have anybody. And so, you know, we would go to movies or go to walks on the beach and stuff like that. And I'm telling you, she was the sweetest young lady and one of the most intelligent. I guess just looking at her, I thought she was going to be like a Hollywood diva or something. Yeah. And she was just one of the most intelligent, down-to-earth, wonderful people to just sit down and have a conversation with you ever met.
And of course, 10 years on from I Know What You Did Last Summer, you starred in Jennifer Love Hewitt's TV show Ghost Whisperer. What was it like? What was it like working with her so many years later and seeing how she'd matured as an actress?
It was wonderful. Love Hewitt is, you know, just a really special lady, and just she's wonderful to work with. And you know, when we first saw each other, there was a, you know, scream like little girls, you know, because we hadn't seen each other in so long. And but the production companies were different, and we were doing different jobs, so it felt, honestly, it felt a little strange.
Could you talk a bit about your role as Charles in Prison Break? Because weren't you originally just to be in 5 episodes, but they extended that to 18?
Yep. When I read the role of Charles Westmoreland, and I saw that it was basically about D.B. Cooper, I started doing research on D.B. Cooper to find out who D.B. Cooper was. Yeah. And I literally fell in love with the man, and I wanted to play that part so bad it wasn't funny. I don't know if you know this or not, but in the plane that he hijacked, he tipped the stewardesses $1,000 apiece. I mean, you know, what kind of bad guy does that? He, you know, I mean, I just love the guy. You know, and you know, it just so I had decided early on that as Charles Westmoreland was telling everybody he was not D.B. Cooper, I was going to play Charles Westmoreland as if he was lying, and that I was D.B. Cooper. Yeah. You know? It gave some depth, I think, to the character that played very well.
And when you have such a passion for the character, too, that comes across on screen.
Yes. Yeah.
And then again in NCIS, you became a fan favourite there as well, playing Mike Franks. What do you think is the key factor in the way you take on these roles that makes them so popular with the audience?
Honestly, I think if you get wonderful writing, and as an actor, you loan your body to that character, if it's good writing, you can't go wrong. I try not to mess with the character too much. I try to conjure the character and let the person's writing take over my body.
Would that have been one of your favourite shows to work on, NCIS?
NCIS was one of my favorites. It really was. And Mike and I have a lot of differences. You know, he's not much of a family man, and you know, real devoted to his work and his friends, and I lean more toward family. You know, and but Mike was a good guy to be around, and you could certainly trust him, you know, with your life.
And Mike's character died, but you always see rumours online that they're going to find a way to bring you back. Do you think will that ever happen?
I do not think that'll happen, because I actually spoke with Mark Harmon about the possibility of me coming back as my brother on the New Orleans version. Yeah. And Mark wasn't very receptive to that idea. So I think, you know, I doubt very seriously that anything like that would happen.
But I suppose when you have such a wonderful character, if you start messing with it with things like that, then it'll probably ruin the memory of him in a way.
Yeah. Of course, to be perfectly honest with you, when you're in this business, you know, to provide your wife and daughter with an income, you pretty much accept any kind of version they wanted to do if it paid you money.
very true.
I mean, let's be honest, you know.
I think we'd all be the same. And then I was looking you up on YouTube, and I found this video, and it's called "The Many Faces of Muse Watson," and it's so cool to watch because it really shows how much your physical appearance changes in each role you play. It's unbelievable. And there was a couple of things on your demo reel, and I was like, God, I didn't even realise that was him in that movie. What would you say would have been your favourite kind of role in the sense of the change of your physical appearance?
Well, of course, I like the guys that are handsome.
Oh yes, of course.
If that could ever happen, but well, no. I'm not. I really did come out here to prove I was an actor and be as diverse as possible. And so because of that, I really don't have a favorite actor to play.
Well, you really succeeded in it because you've never been typecast. All your roles have been so varied, like. And I've worked very hard on that. Let me tell you something. When I first got to Hollywood, and I had just done the Julia Roberts picture, Something to Talk About, they wouldn't even let me in the room to audition for a bad guy. And so I fought doing small independents and stuff like that, trying to prove to everybody that I could play a bad guy because they thought of me as a nice guy, the horse trainer. And so I fought, and finally that came down to me doing Ben Willis and I Know What You Did Last Summer. After I did that, I couldn't buy a good guy role. Nobody would let me play a good guy. So then it's back to working hard again to get a different type of role,
Yeah, to go in the other direction, but it's very, very difficult to have a career doing that in Hollywood. To me, the smartest people out here are people like Tom Hanks, who played the same androgynous fella over and over again until the public knew who he was and he was popular. And then he took his popularity, put a fat suit on, and proved to everybody that he was an actor.
Well, I think it's better the way you've done it in the sense that, you've worked hard, you've proven yourself. You see so many of these stars now, Mammy and Daddy's a famous actor. They're born with a silver spoon in their mouths and they just get the parts based on who their parents are. So, it's, at least you can look back and say, well, I worked damn hard for those roles. Do you know what I mean?
I do. If I had come with a silver spoon in my mouth, my mother would have sold it to put me through college.
And then at the minute now, your new movie that's out is Compound Fracture, and you're starring that alongside Tyler Main, Renee Gerlings and Derek Mayers, and that's Tyler Main and Renee's production company, Main Entertainment. Now, I watched it last night. Brilliant. It was so refreshing to get a new story. A new story. You were brilliant in it. Really, really good. Could you tell the listeners a bit about your character in that movie?
He's a fellow that's trying to take care of his family. And he's, he's dealing with some pretty intellectually challenging issues. At the same time, he's got Alzheimer's setting in. So, he's in a real difficult spot. I let Gary take over my body and I played him. And then when I watched a little bit of the performance, I got a little bit scared of my performance because there were times in my performance when I didn't look like I was sincere or looked like I didn't know what the truth was, and all of a sudden I realized that's exactly what I wanted to portray. That was exactly Gary. Gary had Alzheimer's setting in, and that look on my face. But I got scared that somebody might interpret it as being a performance that was insincere or not truthful, when in fact that's who Gary was.
And then weren't you in another movie then? Is that coming out this year, Penance Lane?
We haven't filmed that yet.
Is that to be filmed yet?
Yes, we're filming that in North Carolina, I think, in a month or two.
Oh, excellent. And what's can you give any of the plot away of that yet?
I can't. To be quite honest, I trust and love Tyler and Renee. Yeah. And they asked me if I would participate in another film for their company, and I told them yes. But quite frankly, I don't know that I've even seen the script.
Derek Mayer said the same. Everybody who knows them just wants to do everything they can to help them because they're just such nice people.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. And I can tell you this, there's very few people that I would agree to do a film for when I didn't know the role.
Exactly. It's good to have good faith in them. I'm really I've great faith myself in what's going to come from Main Entertainment after seeing that, because it was such a fresh movie, because you've the same old rehashings and, you know, remakes of old 80s horror, so it was great to get a new story that wasn't something you've seen before. Before I let you go, my final question is, when you're not working, what is your favourite thing to do?
Honestly, go somewhere like my hideout in the Smoky Mountains, and go somewhere where there's not any people of any kind, and be totally by myself in nature on the side of a creek, or climbing the rocks, or just walking in the woods, or, you know, just totally away.
That's it. And I'd say you need that when you're just, you know, if you're with people all the time, it's nice to have that space to yourself.
It is. And you know, it's weird when people recognize you, you know, they recognize you for characters you play. They don't know who you are. And so sometimes I just want to get away and go somewhere where I can be myself.
Well, listen, Muse, thank you so much for joining me on the show today. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you.